terms. So I am pleased to see that we have 11% of voters who would probably tend to skip this election are actually voting in it. And then we also very carefully follow age. What we are seeing, and it's pretty standard, the most reliable voting demographic are voters age 50 to 75. Now, turnout among Black voters. Ignore the last column because I was busy doing something else and forgot to pull the percentages. The percentages were from 2021 when I had the final numbers. So I'm going to pull this entire column. So the counties that you see are really our target counties. And you can see that we're beginning to see a nice tick of voters turning out. And these numbers, as we get closer to November by next week, a number of them are going to double and hopefully even triple. You'll be able to get a copy of this presentation. I'm going to dump the last column, but this just really lets you see the counties where we are going to be concentrating. Now, there's a number of things you can do in addition to making phone calls for us. We have already texted all the Black voters in Virginia who did not vote in 2018. We will be making another pass at the end of October, and we will be reaching out. We may actually add more voters depending on what early voting looks like to make sure we get a good turnout. Everyone can look into becoming a poll worker, no matter what state or jurisdiction you live in. And you can go to powerthepolls.org/CFCG. And we also, this is 2020. We have a new version of See Something, Say Something for 2022. Anyone has the ability, if you see an election problem, to say something by going to voterprotect.live/CSay. It will allow you to indicate what kind of problem are you having. You'll describe it, you'll say where it happened, you'll put your contact information in, and then it will put a color-coded dot on a map. No one will be able to access your contact information other than people like me who review the information on the back end of the database. Your information will never be available to the public. And then finally, a fun tool that I found called ActiveVote allows you to go in, put in your address. It will show you literally all the people that will be on your ballot, and you can kind of take part in literally a private poll. How many times do you hear about polling and you're thinking, well, nobody ever asked me? With ActiveVote, you can be part of a poll. You also get an opportunity to look at all of your elected officials, from the president all the way down to your local county. And you can go in, you can rate them, and it's very, very interesting. I knew all my federal, all my state reps. I knew a lot of my county reps, but even I was surprised there were a couple I didn't know. It also gives you the opportunity to weigh in on bills that are currently in the federal government or were in your state house. It also gives you the ability to put in your opinion on a number of relevant issues that people are talking about today. So I had a great time with it, and something to kind of take the stress off in thinking about the elections. So thank you very much. I know I owe everybody some links that I will be dropping in the chat. And Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. And thank you all for joining us. Welcome. As Andrea so eloquently laid out what we do as an organization, I think it is important to recognize that, we are a passionate and most energized group that you ever want to see when it comes to working together and getting out the vote. I have been just honored and privileged to be able to work with these group of leaders, these brilliant thinkers, and these just courageous leaders that I'm just so proud of the work that they have done. Andrea talked to you about what we do as an organization, kind of a 50,000 feet look at what we do, but we're a grassroots organization, and a lot of the work we do is on the ground, and our Democracy Center leaders are the point persons for that. They are the spearheads of those movements on the ground, and they make things happen. And every community is different. And so for tonight, I want to introduce you to the Virginia Democracy Center leaders who are making a difference in their individual communities and doing such a superb job of just spreading the word here about how strong we need to be working together. First, I want to introduce you all to Janice Gay, who is our Norfolk Democracy Center leader, who is also working in Virginia Beach. Next, we'll have Melissa Hartman, who is also joined by Celine Montgomery, who is in our South Side Democracy Centers. And that is a very unique Democracy Center. They'll tell you more about the 4 counties that they cover. And then we have the amazing E.J. Scott, who is in Northern Virginia and the 16 counties they cover. She's accompanied by Karen Campbell, who will also talk about the work that they're doing with the voters in Northern Virginia. So without further ado, please, Janice, tell us about the work that you are doing in Norfolk and lead us on this conversation of how each of our democracy centers serve a specific need in those communities.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Our Norfolk and Virginia Beach Democracy Centers are geared up. We are boots on the ground. We're ready for canvassing all of the areas of Virginia Beach. We're also text banking. We're hosting postcard parties. We've been collaborating with other faith-based organizations as they do citywide events. We've been hosting community fundraisers, and right now we're getting together, putting a youth and young adult campaign together, the phone bank. So our goals have been very, very successful, and we look forward to keeping up the momentum.
Thank you, Janice. I'm going to pass it along to Melissa and Silene.
Okay, thank you. And my cat has just decided she wants to join, so sorry about that. Perfect timing. I'm Melissa Hartman. I'm with the Southside Virginia Democracy Center. This is Miss Stinky, my kitty. She helps too. And as Frank alluded to, we have a little bit of a more unique setup down here in Southside. We are in a very geographically dispersed, I'm going to move Miss Stinky, thank you. Very geographically dispersed area down here. And so what we are doing is we kind of formed a coalition from some of the neighboring counties. I'm in Mecklenburg. You'll hear from Celine after me in Brunswick. Yes, we do, Andrea. We also have representatives working on the ground in Lunenburg and Nottoway. And we are just here to both work together and get synergy together to amplify our efforts, as well as helping out any other neighboring communities in these rural areas that need it. I lived most of my life up in the Northern Virginia area, and so the challenges down here are very different. in terms of what we can do in the grassroots organizing on the ground. One thing that I didn't have to worry about when I lived in the more urban and suburban areas was that I didn't have to travel very far to ever get to one of my voting precincts. I could walk to any voting precinct I was in, whether it be in Virginia, Maryland, in the DC area. Down here, our registrar does try very hard to make sure no one has to go more than 7 or 8 miles, but that's during the regular election day. We have challenges down here in early voting because all early voting in Mecklenburg County is done at the registrar's office, which can be upwards of 25 miles or more away from folks' front door. And so that is a real challenge in these kind of areas, in economically suppressed and depressed areas like we have. It's tough for people that don't have reliable transportation. We don't have Ubers down here. We don't have Lyfts. We don't have public transportation. And so how do we get people to the polls? That is one of the main goals that we work in Mecklenburg County for our Democracy Center, is making sure that anybody that needs a ride to the polls can get there. Particularly during early voting, it makes it a little bit easier for our volunteers. Even though they drive a lot to pick up people, they're all going to one place to vote and to come back. So that does make it a little bit easier, and we do push the early voting. 40% of our population in Mecklenburg County is in the BIPOC community. So that is the outreach target that we do here. But the population density is 4% of what it was where I lived in Northern Virginia. 4%. That means that you sometimes can't even see your neighbors for miles. And so there are real challenges, both in communication, getting accurate factual information out. So that's kind of our second objective that we do here, and that is making sure that everybody has accurate, factual, real information about how to vote, how to register to vote. We have a lot of folks that are returning citizens and don't understand or know that they can get their right to vote restored. So we point that out. We help them with a lot of the information through the Center for Common Ground and the applications we have here. We also do a lot of partnering with our county registrar. And what I do in my county with him is we go out and do voter education sessions. We've done them at the high school, senior centers, the community behavioral services board works with us for the day clients, churches we can get in because we're 501c3. So I've been able to go in and talk with different church congregations, that sort of thing. But all of it is about getting it out. So we do a lot of events. We have a big event across our county called Boynton Day. The end of this month, it's a Saturday voting day. We will have a Democracy Center booth there, and we can literally walk people over to the registrar's office. And with the same day voter registration we have available in Virginia this year, there's no reason they can't register that day, and we walk them over and they can vote. But it's also important, and I'll try not to talk forever, right? It's also important to engage the community year round. We don't just engage them during the election cycles. Another main goal is to have civic engagement, civic understanding, civic knowledge. So the community surveys that we do is to find out what are those points of need and interest in our community. In Mecklenburg, consistently we're coming up with health affordability, access is number one, and then business and economic opportunities, financial opportunities are number two. And even though broadband has been down at number 3 or 4, when you really think about it, broadband access is the utility underpinning every one of those other efforts. You can't have telehealth without good broadband access. I couldn't be Zooming with you tonight without having had fiber run to our neighborhood. A lot of the calls you'll see in these remote areas, they can't even do that. Working with our behavioral services folks, they don't even have a psychiatrist physically within an hour and a half down here. So mental health is a real challenge for folks down here. So we're partnering with the VCU health system down here, and they have given us tons of information that every event we go to, we have a whole little goodie bag with numbers and information. Always our palm cards in there too. We've just added new poison control things to get rid of your prescription medicines, all kinds of stuff to help the folks down here and get them engaged, helplines. And then this is a little carrier, plastic carrier that was sized to fit your COVID vaccination card. It's got, of course, Southside Virginia Democracy Center on it. And we created a little health and medical card that goes in there, and people have been very excited about this. So if you can put your contacts, your doctors, your emergency prescriptions, all of that kind of stuff. So that is how we're trying to meet the needs, and all the while overlaying that with making sure they understand their rights, responsibilities, and opportunities to engage. So I know I could talk all night, but Miss Celine is one of our sister counties, and she is doing amazing work in Brunswick County, and would really like for her to have the opportunity to talk and tell you about what she's doing.
Hi, everyone. Is my mic on? Because okay. Or am I unmuted? I'm sorry. I apologize that you're not able to see me, but I am exhausted and not feeling so well. I have a huge event that I'm going to be having on Monday. But I started this, first of all, let me tell you about Brunswick County. It is primarily African-American county, so our focus is our house, our vote is our voice. And so we really want people to be engaged and turn out. And I started this journey in April. And since then, we've hosted 10 community engagement events because our focus is primarily engaging people in the community and service. So we started with a senior spring bags event where I asked the businesses and organizations to make resource contributions to the bag. It started as a basket and it ended up as a bag. But anyway, I took the bag to Senior Disabled Apartment Complex and did community issue surveys at each door. And the second apartment complex, I did community issue surveys and gave them in-home COVID tests. And the issues that were concerning our seniors most were healthcare, transportation, broadband, and safety. And because a lot of the seniors didn't have cell phones or internet, I said I can probably deal with that need. And I hosted my first affordable connectivity tablet and cell phone event. And then we hosted Brunswick County's first Juneteenth event. And I invited the NAACP to co-host the event. We grilled, had vendors, and I raised money to give out 24 gas and Food Lion cards. That's when the gas prices were sky high, and I think we're headed in that direction, back in that direction. We then had a back to school supply and affordable connectivity event. And with the help of partners, we were able to serve over 300 families and about 50 qualified people because affordable connectivity is income eligible. And so about 50 people qualified to receive tablets. We did community surveys at that event, and we grilled food, and we had a DJ. So that was kind of really busy because I had two things going on. Outside, it was the school supplies, and upstairs, it was affordable connectivity, and that was a total zoo, but definitely well worth it. Then I was invited to speak at the Senior Citizen Center where we did community surveys. We had a potluck and politics and affordable connectivity event. And I passed out a flyer with the outreach circle QR code. And on the flyer, we had vote multiplying. And each person was asked to write down 5 people that they would remind to come out and vote. So that was a pretty successful event. Everybody cooked some good food because they thought it was, the people that came thought it was catered. So I was really excited about that event. We had a voter registration, restoration of rights. It included updating your registration. And we paid for flavored ice truck to come with us to 2 low-income apartment complexes. And we paid for the flavored ice. Then we had an event at Southside Community College, the Alberta campus. That was the pizza and politics event. And I worked on this event with my intern that won my Juneteenth essay contest. And the winner of the contest got to help host a voter registration and community engagement event. And he's also a student who just graduated from high school. So he's a student at Southside College. And I also have a youth coordinator intern that helped with the event. Congressman McEachin spoke at the event, and around 100 people from the community and students attended in person, and 50 students participated virtual. And this was at 11 o'clock in the morning. So the president of the college was pretty excited about the work that the Democracy Center is doing. And last but not least, Brunswick County Souls to the Polls Sunday voting. I want to say that we were one of the few localities last year that participated. Out of the localities in Virginia, I think there were 24 localities that participated in Sunday voting, and we were one of those localities. So we did pretty much the same thing we did last time. We were in the churches, and we asked people to come out and join us after church as we vote on Sunday, because pretty much, you know, I've got a lot of people that volunteer that Brunswick County, because it's so small, they know who we are. So we were able to send out text and say, you know, will you join me after church as I cast my vote? And we provided lunch, so we had a good time out there. 91 voters came out, and my intern, 18 years old, it was the first time that he voted. So we took pictures of him as well. And that's about all I've got for you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Celine. And as you can see and hear from just our first two democracy centers, we have some very creative ways of engaging our voters, engaging our community, and providing mutual aid to make sure that some of their pain points are reached. Next, I want to introduce you to EJ Scott, who is one of the leaders of our newest Democracy Center in Northern Virginia, who, if I didn't mention earlier, has the Herculean task of covering 16 counties, which is why she is often relying heavily on the support of our friend and champion, Karen Campbell. And I'll let them speak to you more about what the work there looks like on the ground and some of the challenges that they have as well.
Thank you so much, Frank. And it's so great and inspirational to hear all of the exciting work that everyone else is doing. That gives us newbies some inspiration, but I'll tell you, we have hit the ground running. And just this past Sunday in Manassas City, we did a Souls to the Polls drive that was really exciting. We gave out coffee, donuts, and hot chocolate. And we also are planning Souls to the Polls drives. All of the other counties are having theirs on the 30th of October. So we have a number of locations where we're being partnered with by some sororities and fraternities, particularly the Deltas and the Sigmas are supporting us in that effort to get people out. And we've also worked with some of the churches in this area and other faith-based groups to help us get the word out on those Souls to the Polls Day. But we are also, the other thing that we're doing is that we have partnered with NAACP, and we are working with them on their Building Community Voices Initiative fund. And that is has really been a game changer for us because it is allowing us to hire text and phone banking. And we're working now to get out our canvassers to get them moving as well. If you listen to WHUR, that's 96.3, we have radio ads on right now with the NAACP that we worked, and they're really good. Let me know what you think when you listen to them. So we're very excited, and I believe Karen is reaching out with some George Mason University students, and we're working with youth groups from a number of organizations, but of course from the NAACP youth. And Karen, you want to add some more?
Thanks, CJ. Yes, I think you covered it very well. Yeah, we're reaching out to some of our George Mason and our young adults, and we're trying to get them to lead that program to make sure that as we're mobilizing all of the voters in Northern Virginia, that we also include the youth voice. And then in Fairfax County, as well as all of the other 15 counties within the region, we're also identifying target areas in which we know we have high concentration of Black voters, and planning to have some form of canvassing or literature drop where we can let them know that Souls to the Poll is going to be, as EJ said, October 30th. Each of the different branches are planning some kind of event at the polling locations or in partnership with local churches and other organizations in trying to help spread the word. And then, of course, reaching out to all of the local Black churches in particular, but local churches to try and get spiritual and faith leaders to also mention and remind everybody from the pulpit that Souls to the Polls is coming up, and encourage folks to vote on that Sunday, because we want to make sure that we don't lose this option. So the more voters we can get to do not only early, but also on Souls to the Poll will help to ensure that this this amenity, this right that we have, this privilege, is not lost. Like that. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
All right. Thank you, ladies, both of you, and for the great work that you are doing and the support that we know you need. We will definitely continue to send people your way to help. And this, again, this Herculean effort. Last but not least, I wasn't certain before if she would be able to make it, but I did have the fortune of pulling our Roanoke Democracy Center leader away from her busy schedule and her daily duties of getting out the vote to come and speak with us about the work that she is doing there in Roanoke. So without any further ado, the last speaker we have from the Roanoke Democracy Center, Ms. Bernadette Lark.
Hello, everyone. I am parked, so I'm in my car, but I'm parked. I literally just left a community meeting with about 27 youth that have committed this weekend to getting out palm carding with us. We've had just a wonderful, wonderful wrap up from just civic engagement, voter engagement, and always staying in the community with people in relationship. We here in Roanoke are still running our food bank, which has been a huge, you might as well say, catapult for non-registered voters. We're connecting with them in the needs-based area. We're still getting out in our communities, hosting events regularly. We are in our community gardens, working on projects with our community gardeners. It was just a great thing to hear from Miss Celine, because me and her spent hours on the phone together as she was planning the Juneteenth event with so many other democracy centers. I was honored to serve in the event planning. So thank you to our leaders, Andrea, Frank, John, just for connecting me with so many amazing. So good to see you. I see another person that I regularly communicate with, Melissa, Patricia. So it's so good to see you all tonight. I don't want to start naming names because I'll forget someone. But here in Roanoke, we continually will get the turnouts we need because we care about who's missing. We will not stop until we recognize there's a reason they're missing. We want to go after those people. We want to be in relationship with those people. We want to connect with those people, because those are the voices that have been missing for too long, that is going to change the very climate that we live in. So I don't want to go on and on because I logged in late, but I was so excited. Andrea would tell you that I send her little clips here and there from community members, people that are getting their rights restored. And they're not just joining, filling out a piece of paper and then waving at us. They are palm carders themselves. These people are leaving video testimony with us that I feel empowered that I matter. I want my voice to matter, and I can't wait to cast my vote. So of course, we're giving out the voter ride cards. We're palm carding. We just wrapped up a campaign of postcarding. So all of those caveat of great things is happening here in Roanoke. Thank you for the time, peace and blessings. And I'm looking forward to connecting you all with those community events because that is where it's at.
Thank you so much. And it was wonderful that we were able to close with BJ, who was our first Virginia Democracy Center. So thank you very, very, very much, BJ. What I'm going to do is open it up now for questions. So if you've got a question, go ahead and raise your hand or just drop it in the chat. We'll see it.
Andrea, I saw one in the chat earlier that was from Erica asking about what types of mutual aid are the democracy centers doing and what seems to be most popular with the community.
All right. Well, the democracy centers, I answered Eric on the chat. They provide food. Lynchburg actually is a feeding center. They do food drives, warm clothing drives. I know that Southside, they deliver food and various things to seniors and shut-ins. And when you saw what Melissa had, they come up with very small things that are very useful, and then they give them away, like a nice holder for your vaccination and medication cards. So it is really amazing how creative our democracy center folks are. And what I really love having BJ come last is basically saying that the work they do in community is year round, and it is not just hi, bye, please go vote. It's hello, this is what we're doing, your voice matters. And then people pick up and they become voting rights activists, where maybe a year or two before they didn't vote at all. This is really the change that we want to see. All right. And then Melissa saying, and they make handmade winter hats, food, hand sanitizer. Whenever they find out whatever people need, they do that. Now, our oldest democracy center in the country is in Hawkinsville, Georgia. The Hawkinsville folks provided food once a month. The community came to them. They basically opened a food pantry, and now they are teaching people how they can make healthy food. So there's a number of things you can do, even if you are not living in Virginia. As Gabe said, our phone banks are up and running in Virginia. I'm going to drop that link in the chat. You can make phone calls with us. That is very, 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 very helpful. If you want to donate so that the democracy centers can continue giving out gas cards, again, in communities that are predominantly Black and rural, the price of gas for these folks is very, very high. Many of people have to commute fairly long distances to be able to even go to work. So everything that we can do in terms of gas cards or whatever is very, very, very helpful. I'm going to drop in a donate link, and you can, of course, donate to our democracy centers. So I'm dropping that link in the chat right now. And are there, oh, I see a hand raised. Who's got their hand up? Josie, do you see?
It's Steven.
Stephen. Yes,
Yeah, hey,
Steve.
it's nice to see a lot of friends on this call. Uh, I have two specific questions relating to voter registration this year. Number one, people at the DMV who registered, and in certain areas, those registrations were slow to get on the rolls, and I just wonder what folks have encountered on that. And the second question is, what specific things are you doing to clarify the very confusing situation where they say voter registration ended on October 17th, but wait, voter registration hasn't ended. You can do same day voter registration, but you have to vote a provisional ballot, but that provisional ballot will in fact count. So don't get scared because it's provisional. So what I want you to do, that sort of complexity.
We did not really focus on voter registration this year. Our focus is exclusively on, or predominantly on, get out the vote. A number of the democracy centers, or almost all of the democracy centers, did the paper registrations. So as we're doing GOTV, we are working with if people tell us they're not registered, then how they can still register and vote same day. We prefer to have that as either a phone or a text conversation where, yes, it is very, very confusing. And we kind of like to hold people's hands as we try to walk through that. Our targets for phone banking and everything else have been voters who are currently registered.
I would like,
Melissa.
Yeah, I'd like to make one response to Stephen's comment there. Down here in where I am in Mecklenburg County, the voter registration, we're kind of handling two ways. There's a part of the population that is more old school. So I have gotten the training, several of us have, make sure I always have a stack of applications to get a vote by mail ballot or the voter registration form in my car. I was able to give two of those to someone the other day that I was visiting, an elderly person, kind of walk them through the process. So that's one thing. And then for the younger, or not always the younger, but the more tech savvy, the texting has been very, because I text a lot and I'm not so young, but has been very effective. And I've been able to get a lot of back and forth engagement about folks saying, have you done your early voting? And they're like, where can I do that in the county? How can I do it? And so that has been energizing. Or they say I'm not registered, and I'm able to ask them why, and then go through the steps. So those are two avenues that have been very successful in our county.
All right, wonderful, Melissa. EJ. Unmute.
Okay. I made some QR codes so that people can just scan with their phone, and it denotes that the NAACP was part of this registration, and they are automatically taken to the Department of Elections site where they can register and check their status and do all of those other things. And so that was really something that made it easy. That way we didn't have to get anybody's social security number or anything. It just works really well. And people stand right there and they fill it in while we're watching. And we'll often ask for their name and their phone number so that we can keep in touch to make sure that they were able to register. We also do a number of other things with memberships for the NRSACP, but we don't just out and out talk about same day registration. We more or less use that as an aside, so that because we want people to register before the 17th of We wanted to get them all registered so that they can participate. But I do tell people afterwards, after the election day, I say you can register anytime you want. So we still continue to register people even after election day.
Thanks, EJ. And I've got a question in the chat. How can people outside Virginia help with the Virginia 2023 elections? For those of you who live outside Virginia, we love elections in Virginia. We love them so much that we have them every year. So our state house and our state senate elections are always in odd years. Since this was a redistricting year, our entire state senate and state house, all 140 seats, will be up for election in 2023. Now, do we have any other questions? Because I am going to stop the recording and I am going to be speaking as Andrea, a citizen of Virginia, and not the head of this organization. So if you have questions, please go ahead and ask them now, so that your answers will be on the recording. All right, I don't see
You
any
have
other
Miss Janet,
hands.
Janet Luongo, I think has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Janet.
Okay, Andrea, that's great. I'm so inspired about what you're doing. I have a lot of ideas to use in Connecticut. My question has to do with with the data. People are asking, how do you know? So you know that people have not voted in certain elections. You know who you send to, and then you can see the public record of who voted. So that's scientific data. And that's now, is that like 1 in 3
Yes.
who vote? Is it about 1 in?
It's probably about that, yes. Now, we use a totally different system than the political party. We use a company called PDI, and we use them because we found, since they buy cell numbers every 90 days, we have far more people and better numbers to either make phone calls and or text. Everything that we do is digital, so that we have the numbers that we can go back to and look at and say, because we do outreach to unfortunately forgotten voters, people that candidates don't bother with, parties don't bother with, because they are inconsistent voters and no possibility they'll ever be a donor. We
Right.
have found wonderful records that show we are able to make a huge difference in turnout among people who frankly have given up on democracy or voting or anything making a difference in their life. And that's what people tell us. Yeah, I just stopped voting. It didn't matter who I voted for. My life never got better. It just stayed the same. One of the other things we will be doing in 2023 is, when the election is over, because we're year round, we never stop, we then move into a very, very detailed and aggressive education campaign. We are building and have already built some civics courses. One of the reasons people get very disappointed often by their federal officers is they don't realize that the pain point, the problem, has nothing to do with their federal officer. It's their city councilman or their mayor. And people just don't know how government is supposed to work because they're not taught. So we are going back and we are teaching federal civics, state civics, and your city, county civics. This is what the people you elect, this is what these jobs are supposed to do. And a couple of people who were our Democracy Center organizers looked around and they're like, well, I'm not really seeing anybody doing a good job representing us, so I think I'll run. And that is very, very exciting as
Yeah.
well.
Terrific.
All right. Well, all right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off transcription. I'm also turning off the recording. All right, I am officially going.